Right now, there's a good chance one of these is sitting under your TV. 9 cheap streaming boxes that federal investigators, Google's own security team, and independent researchers have all linked to hidden malware, secret backdoors, and hijacked home networks. Not knockoffs from some sketchy corner of the internet either. These are sold right now, today, on Amazon, on Walmart, on Best Buy, with thousands of glowing reviews sitting underneath them. Here's what makes this one different from most tech warnings you've seen. This isn't a theory. This isn't a could happen. Real cybersecurity researchers bought these exact devices, plugged them in, and watched them phone home to criminal servers before they'd even finished setting up. The FBI has issued a formal public warning about it. Google has filed an actual lawsuit over it. And millions of these boxes are already sitting inside homes just like yours, quietly doing things their owners have no idea about. And here's the part that makes this genuinely unsettling. Instead of just annoying, this isn't malware you accidentally downloaded by clicking the wrong link. This is malware that was already living inside the device before it ever left the factory, before it ever showed up on your doorstep, before you even opened the box. You didn't do anything wrong. You just bought a product that was never clean to begin with. Before we get into it, if this is useful to you, do me a favor and hit that like button, and subscribe if you're new here, because I break down exactly this kind of thing every single week. The stuff that looks harmless but absolutely isn't. We're counting down 9 specific devices by name, with the receipts to back it up. And stick around to the end, because after the 9, I'm giving you 3 streaming boxes that are actually safe to buy, backed by the same research. Let's start with number 9. At number 9, the T95Z, part of the same troubled family we're going to keep running into on this list. The bait is simple. It's cheap, it's fast, and it promises to unlock basically every streaming service and cable channel you can think of for a one-time price instead of a monthly bill. For a lot of people, that pitch alone is enough to click buy without thinking twice. Here's the mechanic. Independent security researchers acquired the T95Z as part of a wider investigation into cheap Android streaming devices, and found it carrying a backdoor now known as BadBox, malware buried deep in the firmware before the device ever reaches your house. It doesn't come from a sketchy app you installed, it's baked in from the factory. The tell is something most people would never think to check. These devices run on modified open-source Android instead of the certified Android TV operating system, meaning none of Google's built-in security protections are active. If a box promises full Android features but isn't sold through an authorized retailer with Google TV certification, that's your red flag before you even open the box. The cost here isn't measured in dollars stolen from you directly. It's measured in what your device quietly becomes. One node in a network researchers have identified spanning tens of thousands of infected units used to commit fraud on other people's behalf using your internet connection. You won't believe how many of these are still selling right now, because the next one shares almost the exact same story. Number 8. The T95 Max, the upgraded version of the box we just covered, and unfortunately, upgraded doesn't mean cleaner. The bait leans on specs. More storage, more RAM, a faster processor, all the language that makes a budget device sound like it's punching above its price point. On paper, it looks like the smart buy in the lineup. The mechanic is the same backdoor architecture found across this entire product family. Human Security, a cybersecurity research firm, identified the T95 Max as one of several models shipping with the BadBox backdoor already installed, capable of downloading additional malicious payloads on command from remote servers, once it's connected to your Wi-Fi. The tell is the firmware itself. Researchers found these devices signed with test keys rather than legitimate production firmware, a manufacturing shortcut that means there's no clean official update path to patch the problem, even after it's discovered. Once it's infected, it typically stays infected. The cost is scale. Researchers tied this device family to a network of roughly 74,000 confirmed infected devices worldwide, spread across homes, businesses, and schools, including several right here in the US, and that number only reflects what investigators could actually confirm. I'm sure you've walked past this exact box in a store or an online listing without a second thought, because the next one on this list is sold under one of the most recognizable budget streaming names out there. At number 7, the X88 Pro 10, one of the most widely distributed devices on this entire list. The bait is the price-to-feature ratio. It's marketed as a full Android media center, capable of running any app, unlocking any service, for less than the cost of 1 month of a premium cable package. For anyone trying to cut costs on entertainment, it looks like a no-brainer. Here's the mechanic. Security researchers, including investigators at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, independently confirmed the X88 Pro 10 was shipping preloaded with malware capable of adding the device to a coordinated botnet, a network of hijacked devices that can be remotely instructed to carry out cyber attacks. The malware makes contact with command and control servers almost immediately after setup. The tell was something researchers noticed by simply watching the device's outgoing traffic. It was making DNS requests to domains already publicly known as botnet control servers before the owner had installed a single app of their own. The cost extends past the individual buyer. This device was specifically flagged as part of a network researchers say Google itself later moved to shut down through legal action, naming it directly in a federal lawsuit against the operators behind the scheme. You're not going to see this next one coming, because it's marketed with a name that sounds more like a safety feature than a warning label. Number 6. The QPLOVE Q9, and this one earns its spot for a simple reason. It was one of the exact devices named in Google's own legal filing against the operators behind this entire scheme. The bait is familiar by now. An all-in-one Android box, no subscriptions required, described in listings as fast, reliable, and loaded with features. It reads like every other budget streaming box on the shelf. The mechanic, according to the same research that flagged several devices on this list, involves a backdoor that activates during normal use, silently connecting the device to a broader criminal network without any visible sign to the person watching TV on it. The tell is the total lack of transparency around where these devices actually come from. Unlike major brands, there's no clear manufacturer to hold accountable, no security update history to check, and no public documentation of what's actually running on the device. All warning signs that apply to nearly everything on this list. The cost is part of a bigger number. Google's findings describe more than 10 million uncertified Android devices swept into this network, used for advertising fraud and other digital crimes, all while owners believed they were simply streaming a movie. This next one might be the most dangerous entry on the entire list because of exactly what researchers found it capable of reaching inside your home network. At number 5, the X12 Plus, another device independently confirmed by security researchers to be shipping with malware straight from the factory floor. The bait here is the Plus branding itself, positioned as a step above standard budget boxes, hinting at better performance without actually delivering better security. The mechanic matches what EFF security researchers documented after purchasing and testing the device directly. Malware from the same family found across this list, designed to quietly enroll the box into a botnet capable of launching coordinated attacks using your home connection as cover. The tell lines up with what researchers found across this same wave of testing. Like the other Allwinner and Rockchip units on this list, outbound traffic checks revealed the device connecting to domains already flagged as botnet command and control infrastructure, a finding confirmed independently by more than one research team after they each bought their own unit to test. The cost isn't just fraud committed in your name. Once a device like this is inside your network, it has visibility into everything else connected to that same Wi-Fi, your laptop, your phone, your smart home devices, all sitting on the other side of a wide-open door. Coming up next is one that plays entirely on convenience, the exact word this whole category of device leans on the hardest. Number 4, the MXQ Pro 5G, one of the most commonly sold budget boxes on this entire list, and one specifically named in the same research that first exposed this whole pattern. The bait is the branding. 5G in the name suggests cutting-edge technology, when in reality it typically refers only to the Wi-Fi band the device connects on, not any kind of advanced security or performance upgrade. The mechanic follows the same bad box backdoor architecture found across this family of devices. Malware embedded during manufacturing that connects the box to remote servers the moment it's powered on and connected to the internet. The tell, once again, comes down to certification. This device is not PlayProtect certified, meaning none of Google's built-in scanning and security protections apply to it, even though it runs a modified version of the Android operating system. The cost shows up in the sheer number of use cases researchers uncovered for infected devices like this one, from generating fake ad clicks that quietly drain advertiser budgets, to creating fraudulent social media and email accounts using your home's IP address as cover. You won't believe how professional the next two on this list actually look, because they're not hiding behind confusing model numbers at all. At number 3, the SuperBox, and this one is more recent, more sophisticated, and arguably more alarming than everything we've covered so far. The bait is polish. Unlike the generic model number boxes earlier on this list, SuperBox is marketed as an actual brand, with slicker packaging, its own storefronts, and a name that sounds more like a premium product than a knockoff. Here's the mechanic, and this is the part that should genuinely concern you. Cybersecurity researchers discovered malware buried in the firmware of brand new SuperBox units that doesn't just hijack the device for ad fraud, it actively scans your local network looking for other devices to target, including industrial control system interfaces, the kind of equipment used in critical infrastructure. Researchers also found the device standing ready to participate in coordinated attacks designed to knock websites and services offline. The tell researchers pointed to was a folder buried in the device's file system, literally named Second Stage, textbook language for malware built in multiple layers designed to quietly escalate its access over time. The cost is availability. As of earlier this year, researchers confirmed these devices were still being openly sold through major retail platforms, meaning the exposure hasn't slowed down. It's actively continuing right now. And now, the one I've saved for near the very end, because federal investigators named it specifically right alongside the device we just covered. Number 2, the VSeeBox, named directly by federal investigators as part of the same growing threat as the device before it. The bait is the same pitch every device on this list leans on. Endless content, no monthly bill, a one-time purchase that feels like beating the system. The mechanic tracks with the broader pattern investigators have laid out. These low-cost Android streaming devices are preloaded with malware that can hijack your home network. And during setup, they often push users to disable built-in security protections and download apps from unofficial marketplaces just to get the device fully working. The tell is baked into the setup process itself. If a brand new device is asking you to turn off security features or install something from outside the official App Store before it'll even function properly, that's not a minor inconvenience. That's the malware clearing its own path. The cost, according to the same federal advisory, includes hackers using access to compromised devices like this to reuse stolen login credentials across other accounts, essentially turning one hijacked box into a key that can unlock parts of your digital life that have nothing to do with streaming at all. And now, the one I've saved for last, because it's the device where this entire story actually began. And taking the number 1 spot, the original T95, the device that kicked off this entire investigation in the first place. The bait was almost too good. A cybersecurity consultant bought this exact box for around $40, expecting nothing more than a cheap way to run some home network tools on it. Here's the mechanic that made this one famous in security circles. Within days, he noticed the device reaching out to servers already associated with known malware campaigns. Digging deeper, he found layer after layer of malicious code baked into the firmware, silently phoning home the entire time the box appeared to be doing nothing but sitting there. The tell was almost insulting in hindsight. The device's firmware was signed with a testing key, something that should never appear on a consumer product sold to the public, and its debug access was left completely open over Wi-Fi, with no password, no lock, nothing standing between the device and anyone who knew where to look. The cost is the part that should stick with you. Even after this discovery became public, even after it was independently confirmed by other researchers, this exact device reportedly remained listed for sale on major online retailers. The warning didn't stop the sale. It just meant you now know what you're actually buying if you don't check first. What makes the T95 the right one to close this list on is what happened after the story broke. This wasn't a quiet, obscure finding buried in a technical report nobody read. It made headlines. Other security teams bought their own units and confirmed the exact same thing independently. And the listings stayed up anyway. That's the real lesson buried in device number 1. A public warning doesn't automatically pull a dangerous product off the shelf. Only you checking before you buy does that. That's all 9. Take a breath, because now we're flipping this completely. Here's what to buy instead, and how to protect whatever you're already running. Here's the good news buried under everything you just heard. You don't need to give up streaming boxes entirely. You just need to buy from the handful of brands that actually go through Google's certification process, instead of the sea of anonymous model numbers we just covered. Safe pick 1. Roku. Roku doesn't run on Android at all. It uses its own closed operating system, built and controlled entirely by Roku itself, which means none of the Android backdoor exploits on this list apply to it in the first place. Safe pick 2. Amazon Fire TV. Purchased directly from Amazon or an authorized retailer, not a third-party seller offering a suspiciously similar-looking Firebox clone. Official Fire TV devices run a controlled, regularly updated operating system with Amazon's own security oversight behind it. SafePick 3, Chromecast with Google TV. It's Play Protect certified, meaning it runs the real, licensed Android TV operating system with Google's built-in security scanning fully active. The exact certification every device on our list of 9 was missing. SafePick 4, NVIDIA Shield. Same story. Play Protect certified, built by a company with a public security track record, and nowhere near any of the botnet research we just walked through. Notice what all 4 of these have in common. None of them are mystery boxes with a random string of letters and numbers for a name. They're made by companies you can actually hold accountable, with support pages you can actually find, and security update histories you can actually check. That accountability is the entire thing the 9 boxes on this list were missing. If you need the safe streaming devices, link is in the description. And it's showing as tagged products here. Now, 5 habits that protect you no matter what device ends up under your TV. 1. Buy from the brand's official store or a major authorized retailer. Never a random third-party listing promising the same device for half the price. 2. Check for Google Play Protect certification before you buy anything running Android. If a listing doesn't mention it, assume it isn't certified. 3. If a brand new device asks you to disable security settings or install anything from outside the official App Store just to get it working, stop and walk away. That request alone should end the sale. Or, if you already own one of the 9 boxes we just covered, disconnect it from your network immediately rather than trying to factory reset it. Researchers have found that a reset alone often fails to remove malware baked into the firmware itself. 5. Watch your router for devices you don't recognize, and if anything looks unfamiliar or your network feels unusually slow, that's worth investigating before it becomes a bigger problem. That's 9 streaming boxes actively linked to hidden malware and hijacked networks, backed by the FBI, Google's own legal filings, and independent cybersecurity researchers, and 4 certified alternatives that don't carry any of that same risk. The scariest part of this story isn't how sneaky these devices are. It's how normal they look sitting in a shopping cart next to everything else you were about to buy anyway. If this saved you from plugging one of these into your TV, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me if you've ever owned one of these 9, or if you already switched to one of the 4 safe picks. Share this with anyone in your life still hunting for a too-good-to-be-true streaming deal, because this is exactly the kind of thing that spreads through group chats and family recommendations. Subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next, because new versions of this exact scheme show up constantly, and I'll be right here breaking down how they work before they end up in your living room. Stay sharp, stay safe, and watch the next videos.